While not as physically gifted and talented as his older brother, Nate Diaz somehow eclipsed the career of UFC superstar Nick Diaz with a never-quit fighting style and by pulling off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. So just how did Nate escape the shadow of his big brother to bring even more fame and notoriety to the Diaz family name? Nate's fighting career got off to a shaky start, taking a loss in just his second fight against Koji Oishi by unanimous decision. That loss sparked the beginning of a hero's journey. Raised in the extremely rough Stockton, California, Nate grew up fighting in school before he actually made a career out of fighting.
There's 100, 200 people at the park. So I'm already headlining parks in high school. Headlining parks. I'm like, fuck, I'm the nerve of their building because, you know, I fought a couple times in middle school and elementary school, but in high school,
it was the big stage.
It was like, what? And then when I got to the park, not to mention my brother and the homies heard from back home. So when we got to the park, my brother and all his homeboys that I grew up with were all at the park too. So I'm like, oh, these guys are here too.
Fast forward to WEC 12, where a young Nate choked out Alejandro Garcia by triangle choke before going on to win 3 straight fights. A Brazilian jiu-jitsu wizard, it seemed unlikely anyone could challenge him in grappling, let alone submit him at this stage of his career. That was until he faced the dangerous Hermes Franca for the WEC 24 title. It was at this point that the younger Diaz brother realized he had more to learn about his craft. Franca submitted Diaz by armbar in the second round, but this no doubt motivated Nate to do even bigger and better things in the sport. Nate used the momentum of his first loss to go on a 5-fight winning streak. However, he didn't just win. Nate won with style, flair, and a nasty attitude that was evident on the Ultimate Fighter series.
You want to talk to me, trust me, I need to talk to you. Come on,
man, it's cool. It's cool.
I know it's cool. I need to talk to you, though.
I don't want to go talk to you. Talk to you about what? He's like, come on, it's cool. He's like, it's cool. I was like, it's cool, then go over there. Get the away from me.
Come outside, I gotta
Nah,
talk to you.
talk to me right here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So all week you're joking, you're trying to be all cool. All of a sudden you want to fight me for no reason?
You're the one acting tight towards me, grabbing me up and man. I ain't trying to say
You think I'm
you make me uncomfortable with that
He carried this attitude into his fight with the wrestling dominant Clay Guida, and even though Nate lost, he won fans over with his trash talking and come forward style just like his older brother.
Now I've been hanging out with him late night.
I was hanging out with him and Nick the other night.
Great.
Nick's great.
Yeah.
Funny dudes. You would never know they could beat the out of you. Just meet them. You think they're so friendly.
Unfortunately, losing to wrestling dominant fighters became a recurring theme for Nate.
Wrestling's the most important discipline for MMA, I think. Yeah, I think it's the foundation because the wrestler can dictate where the fight takes place. You know, if the wrestler chooses to stand, he can stand. If the wrestler wants to get back up, he can get back up.
Right.
And the wrestler knows how to take the guy down. Whereas, like, even though every fight starts standing up, and it's a big advantage for the striker while they're standing up, with the wrestler, if the wrestler knows how to strike, the striker has to think about 2 different things simultaneously.
Yeah.
In almost the exact same fashion, he lost the Guida fight. Nate lost to Joe Stevenson by a 3-round unanimous decision. For many fighters, back-to-back losses in this fashion can be demoralizing. That wasn't the case for Nate. He bounced back with an emphatic submission victory over Melvin Gillard, and everything about his career seemed to be bright again. However, Nate's light was dimmed once again, and the win was short-lived as he proceeded to lose a controversial split decision to Gray Maynard, and lose unanimous decisions to Dong Hyun Kim and Rory McDonald. It's important for fighters to never give up on themselves, and Nate simply had a never-quit attitude. In many cases, even after defeat, he conducted himself like he won, making him delusional in the eyes of some fans, but also admirable.
I see fighters doing interviews all the time, and before the fight, they're hot and heavy on their top of the world, and they're banging the chest, and the second the fight is done, if they lost, well, you know, they're hanging their head, and I don't have the right to call anybody out. I just, I got to get back to the drawing board, and I got to figure out what I did. Why? Why? Be the boss even after a loss.
I remember winning and then them saying I lost.
After back-to-back defeats, Nate finally seemed to learn his lesson, pulling off another 3-fight win streak, positioning him for a chance at UFC Gold against Benson Henderson, who was every bit as odd and quirky as Nate was.
But these young kids don't remember you fighting with a toothpick, and that's like, like it's so long ago now. It still blows my mind that like against Diaz you had the toothpick, right?
For a lot of fights, I have a toothpick. Yeah, for a lot of fights, it was just a bad habit. I would literally go out to lunch or dinner or breakfast, whatever, and I have you have a toothpick in a restaurant. I would just I have it in. I would practice. I would do whatever. I leave it in for fights.
Nate ended up losing another decision in the never-ending decision-loss cycle. That was until the next defeat, where the loss was much more dramatic, devastating, and didn't make it to the scorecards.
Karen Bryan for MMA Heat. I'm here with Nate Diaz, who takes on Josh Thompson at UFC on Fox 7. And, we saw you on a UFC on Fox card before. Obviously, Diaz on a Fox card is a good thing, yeah?
Yeah, I think I've been on the last three. Yeah. That's my third one, so, yeah.
Josh Thompson was a familiar foe and fought Nate's teammate Gilbert Melendez, but that held little weight in the matchup with Thompson, as Nate was knocked out for the first time in his career. For many fighters, being knocked out can haunt them for the rest of their lives. It didn't help that after being finished, Nate had to fight in a rematch with Gray Maynard, who already defeated him. However, the post-knockout jitters didn't affect Nate as he put on one of the best performances of his career, knocking out Maynard in the first round via punches. In an up and down and unpredictable career, this victory was followed up with a defeat to Rafael dos Anjos, where once again Diaz struggled to grapple with a strong and sturdy wrestler. It's natural that someone like Nate would finally have his big moment, and that moment came against the notorious Conor McGregor. When you least expect it, the unthinkable happens in mixed martial arts. Sometimes fighters who are used as stepping stones to build others actually come out on top. As a huge underdog, Nate pulled off one of the greatest upsets in UFC history. He did the unfathomable and finished the notorious by rear naked choke. This set up one of the biggest rematches in all of combat sports, and the build-up wasn't without drama.
Shut your f***ing mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Not one of you will do nothing. Get the f*** out of here. Get the f*** out of here. F*** you.
That's all right. Hey, Connor, don't throw those out, Connor. That's a wrap.
Coming off the biggest and most lucrative victory of his career, Nate didn't have much to lose. Conor McGregor, on the other hand, had everything to lose and couldn't afford to go down 0-2 in this memorable saga. Stockton, California versus Ireland for all the bragging rights.
Team Diaz, Team McGregor fans going back and forth, chanting, singing. Let's go see what it's like in the belly of the beast. Follow me. Yes, I'll be right back. Here we go. Let's see what's going on.
Hey, all right. How you doing, brother?
Okay, I'll be right back. Let's go right in the belly of the beast. Look at this. Fans, you've got a fan here from California with some expletives. Oh, it's getting a little bit tense. Here.
They fought once again at UFC 202, and McGregor fought a much more cautious fight, winning a majority decision over the Stockton native. After a brief hiatus from the sport, Nate returned to the octagon for another super fight against Jorge Masvidal. There wasn't an official UFC title on the line, but this fight was big for different reasons.
So, when Nate did his interview that night, he basically said, this is for the baddest motherfucker in the game.
A classic striker versus striker matchup. Nate was finally being put against opponents who could bring out his entertaining and crowd-friendly style. Masvidal was no stranger to putting on exciting fights either.
Oh my! Are you kidding me? Oh no! My God!
On paper, there was no way the fight could disappoint, and the matchup didn't disappoint for the most part until the very end when doctors intervened.
Just want to get your thoughts on the main event as a whole and what you thought about the stoppage.
Yeah, what happens in this game? These things happen. At first, I was bitching and pissed off, and I said, they didn't stop the Tyson Fury fight, and that cut was nasty and whatever. Then I walked back, and I saw Nate Diaz, and his eyebrow was literally flipped over in front of his eye, and he had another huge gash under his eye, and then I started thinking, it's easy sitting over there in my chair thinking, the fight shouldn't be stopped. And the reason we love Diaz so much is because You know, he's so tough and durable and everything else, but I don't know.
Masvidal secured the victory of Diaz, but Nate would have another memorable moment, even in defeat. Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. A terrible matchup on paper. Diaz was obviously past his prime, and Edwards seemed like he was just entering his prime. The majority of fans thought Leon would win a dominant decision to put himself in title contention, and for the majority of the fight it went how people predicted, right up until Nate flipped the script.
Specifically, that big shot that landed by Nate. And there has always been a dialogue after that fight that Nate should have gone after him. Nate didn't know he had Leon hurt. When Nate watches this on tape later, he's going to see there was an opportunity. He should have sprinted and blitzed him and got him out of there. And if he would have done that, Nate would have won. Like, that's another thing. People not only know what Nate should have done, they also know how it would have resulted, which is Stockton's own getting his hand raised.
Nate Diaz lost the fight by unanimous decision, but sometimes the winner isn't always the man who gets his hand raised at the end. It's the fighter who wins over the hearts of fans. And to watch the career breakdown of another legend, check out this video on the losses of Nate's brother, Nick Diaz.